Okay, so statistics, as you all know, that it emerged as a branch of study or as a branch of science when the kings were facing problem in maintaining their revenues and other things, and then basically statistics began. This is generally said. And what they were actually doing, they were collecting the information about the revenue. So the aggregate of facts is called data. So they were, and those facts may be numerical facts, those facts may be textual information. So aggregate of information is called data, and we generally use plural. Therefore, it is aggregate. Suppose I am saying my salary is rupees 2 lakh, then it is datum, not data. But when I am presenting salary of say all the teachers of the department, then that will constitute data. So statistics is basically a science where we collect data, means we collect the numerical facts and information. We try to organize those information. Suppose I am presenting the entrance examination index of all the students and asking that how many have scored, say, above this, it will be really difficult. And I am presenting the data of the whole university, not of the entrance examination of this MA psychology. How many have scored greater than this percent? How many have scored zero? So searching and finding the whole registers will be a tedious job. So statistics is not only collecting data but organizing it. Suppose I organize the whole information contained in several pages of a big register in a very simple frequency distribution table, then you can say that how many students are in between this to this school. And you know that frequency distribution creates class intervals, and class intervals are nothing but subset of the score. Suppose the possible score is from 0 to 200, then I can create subset of scores. How many have scored from 0 to 10? How many have a score in between 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40? This will be called class interval. But what actually is class interval? It is basically the subset of scores. So statistics is basically collecting information, organizing it, and then analyzing it also, and finally interpreting it to make some sense, to infer some information. While doing so, हिंदी में भी बोल रहा हूँ, स्टेटिस्टिक्स का मूल उद्देश्य यह है कि आंकड़ों को एकत्रित करना, उन्हें व्यवस्थित करना, जिससे उनमें हम कुछ चीजों को देख पाएं और फिर उन आंकड़ों को विश्लेषित करना, उनका एनालिसिस करना, और जो एनालिसिस से चीजें मिले, जो रिजल्ट्स फाइंडिंग्स मिले, उन्हें इंटरप्रेट करना, उनको उनकी व्याख्या करना, ये बेसिकली स्टेटिस्टिक्स की परिभाषा कही जाती है. एंड in that sense, statistics may be broadly divided. Statistics can be divided in so many ways, but for you and according to your syllabus, we can divide the statistics into descriptive and inferential statistics. So, when we are using any statistical method like, say, mean, median, mode, standard deviation, correlation, any statistics for this purpose, for describing the sample or the population, then presenting a numerical summary or description of the sample or the population, then that statistics will be called descriptive statistics. But when we are trying to make inference from a statistics that has been calculated on a sample about the population statistics, suppose I calculated the mean score on entrance test examination of this batch of AMF second semester and try to infer about the entrance test performance of the entire university, Banaras Hindu University, then I am entering into another type of statistics that is called inferential statistics. So, if I am trying to infer, suppose the mean score was 150 of this group, and then I inferred that in all the entrance examination, on the average, most of the students have scored 150. This is my inference. For then you will ask, what is the probability? What is the confidence in this inference? Then we create confidence intervals and many other things. We say that it is 95% likely that many of the students will have this mean score. Then the same mean is entering into another area or branch of statistics called inferential statistics. So remember, inferential statistics may be any statistics, but it has a set procedure how we make the inference. So making inference involves a set of procedures, and based on those set of procedures, we try to make inference from the sample about the population. So the statistics that is obtained on a sample is called statistic. So mean of a sample is statistic. Remember, I am using singular, not statistics. Yes is absent. So mean is a statistic. Standard deviation is a statistic if it is calculated on the sample. I am just taking care of one question, that how to grasp all the things. I thought that you should have some elementary idea of the statistics. Some basic terminology should be introduced. So whoever will be lecturing, you will find it easier. So statistic is basically mean, maybe statistic when it is computed on a sample. And when we compute the mean of the population, suppose in the computer era, I can calculate the mean very easily just by a click of press of a button. I can get the mean of the entire university entrance test results. And suppose Banaras Hindu University, I have considered it a population. So population is not something that the whole population of India will constitute population, or the entire people in the world will constitute population. Population basically in statistics is defined by the researcher. So we define that this constitute population. So suppose in this example, if Banaras Hindu University is the population of a student, and I have studied only MA second psychology student, second semester psychology student, then this is a sample of that Banaras Hindu University student population, those who have appeared in the entrance examination. Any calculation done on the sample, that is the MS second semester student, will be called statistics. So the mean of the entrance examination marks is a statistic if I have calculated it on MA second semester students. But when I calculated it on the whole population, the entire university, then that is called parameter. So parameters are generally represented by Greek alphabets. So mu is the symbol used to represent the population mean, and mu is a parameter. So same mean is parameter when it is presenting a numerical description or summary of the population. But when we are presenting, suppose I am saying that your batch has scored On the average means the mean of the entrance score is say 150, then it is a statistic. And what we do in inferential statistics, that based on statistics using some set procedures that you will learn when you will be learning ANOVA, t-test and other things. I will come to that. So then that statistical procedure will be called inferential statistics. So in inferential statistics, we always try to make and the basic. So we cannot study the entire population. All the researchers, suppose the vaccines are being approved by the different governments, government of India. The study was done on say 1,200, 500, 10,000 persons only. And based on those results, they inferred that this will be the response pattern. It is safe for the entire population. And you are seeing that risks or difficulties after taking vaccination is really very few. It means the inference was more accurate. So statistics is some phone call is coming. I will have to put my phone off. Sorry. So statistic is the numerical descriptor of the sample and parameter is the numerical descriptor of the sample. And when we are using statistics for describing the sample, numerical description, suppose I say that the mean score of the MS second semester psychology students who are here is 150. The range is from say 100 to 190. The standard deviation is say 20.5. Then I am describing numerically about the performance of this class. So all these statistics will be considered descriptive statistics. Now I am coming to the question when to use parametric and non-parametric, and therefore I am creating a background. And I will stop at a point to have your queries, and those queries should be from microphone and not from the chat box. So I am reviewing what I have said till that statistics is basically a science which deals with collecting data, tabulating or organizing those data, then analyzing them, and then interpreting them to infer some meaning and to describe the sample or the population, whatever we are studying. And this statistics can be divided broadly into two categories, but there are, remember that this is not the only classification, in two categories, descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. When any statistical technique, method, or procedure, say mean, median, mode, standard deviation, is used for describing the sample or the population, then it is called descriptive statistics. But when based on sample statistics, we are trying to infer about the population, we are predicting that the population will be also having the similar characteristics as we have noted on the sample, then those statistical procedures are called inferential statistics. And then some examples of inferential statistics, for example, t-test, analysis of variance. Uh, so these analysis of variance, t-test, chi-square test, Kruskal-Wallis one-way analysis of variance. These are some of the statistical procedures generally classified in inferential statistics because we try to infer something about the population using the sample. For example, using t-test, we try to infer such type of things like the difference between two groups, say male and female, in the sample can be generalized to the entire population of males and females. So T-test is used to examine the difference between two means, two standard deviation, even two correlation, but that is called jet. When we use the procedure is almost similar to T-test calculation. And since it is not to be covered by me, I will not discuss, but I will give you some basic idea. So this is inferential statistics and descriptive statistics. And when we are making use of inferential statistics, then there are two categories. One set of statistics like t-test, ANOVA, MANOVA, MANCOVA, they are considered as or classified as parametric statistics. Chi-square test, Mann-Whitney U test, Kruskal-Wallis analysis of variance. These are generally classified as non-parametric tests. I am 100% confident that Dr. Tushar might have covered this, but I am repeating because you have asked too many questions, then I have to do something for you. So when we call any statistics parametric, so there are certain features of parametric statistics. Parametric statistics make some assumptions about the nature of the data or the population or the sample. For example, when we are using t-test, we assume that the scores are normally distributed. The variance of the scores in the male group, say for example, is similar to the variance that we have observed in the female group. This is called homogeneity of variance or homoscedasticity. So we make, and there are for different statistics, there are different assumptions. For different multivariate statistics, there are different assumptions. So when we make some assumptions about the distribution, nature of the distribution of the scores, then generally those statistics are called parametric statistics. I am putting it in simple words. I am not defining it. But on the other hand, when we are facing a situation where these assumptions are not met, all the assumptions of parametric statistics, and generally two, three assumptions are common in all parametric inferential statistics: normality of distribution, homogeneity of variance, and a few more. If these assumptions are not met, then we can do the computation. Many students think that computations cannot be done or computations will be incorrect. No, the computation is a numerical algorithm. You can do it. But whatever you will infer from those computations will not be valid. Suppose, again, repeating the vaccination trials, and if the statistics demanded that non-parametric statistics should be used because the sample size is small and all the assumptions of parametric statistics are not met. But unfortunately, the researchers used parametric statistics, then the case would have been different. The, the inferences would not come valid. There will be discrepancy in the results obtained in the sample and when it will come to the population. So parametric statistics should not be used. Generally, it is said that when assumptions are in violation. But here I cannot cover. It is really, really very big discussion. But remember that real data, we students always say that the distribution is normal. But it is really very difficult in real research to fully comply with all the assumptions. So researchers have provided some range. Suppose if the skewness and kurtosis of the distribution is ranging between this and this, because for normal distribution the skewness and kurtosis value is fixed. If the data is distributed or score is distributed normally, the skewness and kurtosis will be fixed for all the scores. But they have given the range that if the skewness is ranging from -2 to +2, then we can consider it that it is good for doing analysis and it is not in a strong violation of the assumptions. So we do not always try to remember, this is very important when we will be doing real statistics in your real research, that these assumptions need not to be met exactly. There are some ranges. If they are very close to that, then we can use. But if the assumptions are in great violation, then we should use non-parametric statistics. And therefore, one name for non-parametric statistics is assumption-free statistics. After this class, you can do Google, or I know many students are very good at doing Google at the same time. So when you will enter the term assumption free statistics, it means non-parametric statistics. So for using non-parametric statistics, we need not to make any assumption about the population. They are assumption free. Coming to the question, when we should use parametric statistics and when non-parametric statistics, my first answer, and this is not the all answer, my first answer is that even if, let me say something more, then I will summarize. Generally, non-parametric statistics are used on such data. So before going to this, I will just repeat for you that I hope that you all know that when we do measurement in psychology, the measurement is not as good and accurate always as it is done in physical sciences. Say for example, most of the measurement we do in psychological behavioral sciences is up to the level of a scaling or measurement scale that is called interval scale. Very few measurements, say for example, if we are assessing the reaction time, then we are assessing it on a ratio scale. But in physical sciences, most of the data will be on ratio scale. So, based on the nature of the data in terms of levels of measurement, it can be of four types, you all know. The nominal data, for example, we are using numbers. I am saying one is male and two is female. But these numbers are just like names. Suppose I am saying one is Hindu or one is Indian, two is Chinese, and three is Japanese. It doesn't mean that one Indian and one Chinese 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. This is mathematically correct, but one Indian and one Chinese will not make one Japanese. So, why? Because numbers are not having their real numerical properties. Their numbers are used just as labels, as names, and therefore it is called nominal scale. I am just repeating, assuming that many of you have forgotten these basic concepts. But sometimes we use numbers for ranking some traits or abilities. For example, I can say that this student is the best student, this is the second best, this is the third best. Then, if we are doing some ordering and the numbers can represent those orders, then that is called ordinal scale. I will not go to that detail. I will request you all that if you don't know, you read what is nominal, what is ordinal, and what is interval and ratio scale. Now, coming to the main question. So, when data is on nominal or ordinal scale, we use non-parametric methods or non-parametric statistics. So when data is on nominal scale, the statistics that we can use or the calculation that we can done is the numbers, counts or frequencies. So when we want whether the frequencies are different or not, then we use chi-square test, say for example. So chi-square test is used on nominal scale data. So non-parametric statistics are used for nominal and ordinal data. And if the data is on interval or ratio scale, we can safely use parametric statistics provided those interval ratio score data meets some of the basic assumptions for doing those statistics, like distribution is normal, like variance is homogeneous, homoscedasticity, etc. So when non-parametric statistics should be used, two conditions. Either our measurement is not very strong, it is nominal or ordinal level, then the only option for statistics is non-parametric statistics. But even if we are having interval or ratio score data, but they are not meeting the assumptions, and when assumptions are not met, you also know, if you don't know, please know from me that first we try to do some transformation on the score. For example, we can take the log of the data value, we can take the reciprocal of the data values, we can take arc sign values. These are called statistical transformation. Why we do this transformation? We in the hope that the raw data may not be meeting the assumptions, but the transformed data may be meeting those. We can do square root transformations like that. Suppose if data is in proportion, so proportion will always be ranging from 0 to 1. And it is well known fact that proportions data generally fail to meet the assumptions. So on proportion data, the most often recommended transformation is arc sign transformation. So we do arc sign transformation and then we do the calculation. So I am now repeating what I have discussed, then we'll stop for a while for your questions and queries, then I will proceed further. I have defined what is statistics. Statistics may be descriptive and it may be inferential, and inferential statistics may be parametric, may be non-parametric, and the difference are many, but the major difference I shared with you. If you have queries, I can reply to them, and in replying those queries, some additional features may come to your knowledge. So please ask questions if you have any, and you can give suggestions also that, sir, this we know, you proceed to some other. But I will cover degrees of freedom after this, after hearing from you. Any question or query till now?
Sir,
Yes.
sir, is correlation a descriptive or inferential statistics method? While I was studying for this master's entrance exam, I was confused about this question. I
I
could not find
clearly
answer
said that.
on.
I clearly, it is something like that. You cannot say I am how I am being used. Presently, I am a teacher. I am teaching you. But when I will uh, put off this Google Meet off, and then I will be a father, I will be in different roles. So it is not any statistics per se that can be called. I said it in the beginning. Probably you missed. Again, I am repeating for the whole class that I said that suppose I calculated the mean score. I will come to the correlation example also. Mean of entrance score of your class, and I said that the average performance in entrance examination of this year, this academic session, students of psychology is this, say 150. It is descriptive. I am
Yes,
describing
sir.
the performance of the MA second semester students for this academic session. But suppose based on that, I said that I hope, I predict that this will be the average performance in the entrance examination of the whole university, it means I am saying that the x bar will be equal to the mu. It will be equal to the population parameter. Then
Hmm.
I am using the same mean as inference. I am making inference about the mean. Remember. So
Yes.
inferential statistics is a set of procedure. How we make that inference? We follow a lot of rules. For example, if you are doing that the statistics for knowing whether males and females differ or not, or whether this academic session MA students are better than the past years MA student. If you are having some data and doing this, then what you are doing calculation on the sample, you are taking the differences, and you are, if you are making that this is the difference that can apply to the whole university, then that will be an inference, and you are making inference about the mean difference. And what procedure you use, because you all know t-test, I know because it is in undergraduate, you make a null hypothesis that males and females they do not differ. Then you follow some procedure, you calculate the mean difference x bar minus x1 bar minus x2 bar, male mean minus female mean. You take mod even if you want to tell test, and then you calculate a standard error of difference. You divide it by standard error of difference, then you get a statistics that is called t-test or t-statistics. Then you follow a t-distribution that is called t-table that is there. If your obtained value is equal to or higher than the given value in the table for a given probability, say for 95% probability, the level of significance will be 0.05. Then you will say that it is 95% likely, though this is incorrect to say. But people say, so you are making inference about the mean difference. So that particular statistics itself is not inferential or descriptive. Similarly, if I calculated correlation between height and weight, and I found that it is very strongly correlated, those who are tall are having also greater weight because of their is bones or because of some other factors. Then, and if I am generalizing, and this is a generalized information, it generally happens that if you are tall, your weight will be higher than those who are shorter persons. So when we are generalizing this correlation studied on a sample to a population using some set procedures. Those set procedures are the inferential statistics procedures, and we are making inference about a statistics called correlation. Is it clear? I
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
any other question or query? Very good question. I am
Sir,
here to clarify the doubts, and
sir,
I will come to your question again. Please wait. Others may be little more hesitant to ask. Let them come up. Then I will request you to ask another question. Any other question from any other student?
So generally, we say that we cannot analyze a whole population for which we sample, we draw some sample from the population and we calculate the statistics, apply the statistics on this to infer about the population. Then what is the use of parameter? Because parameter is about the population, but when we cannot calculate whole population, then why is there a concept of parameter?
The, good question. Uh, Look, when you are studying sample, your inferences, and you want to study the or you want to know about the population. Otherwise, all researches will be limited to the given lab, and it will never be generalized. It will never come to the field and bench. But it is our general experience that we do conduct studies in lab on a small sample, and those are being applied to a larger mass, that is population. So when there are two ways of studying, one is the sampling method that you have learned in your earlier class, and another is the I have given one basic lecture on sampling also on YouTube. I would request, if you are interested, you can watch that video. So if the sample is a real miniature of the population, then the inferences will be more valid. So if all the characteristics which are distributed in the population are distributed in the same way, in the same manner in the sample, then any inference drawn from that sample will be more valid, will be more generalizable to the population. Since, for example, if you will study the intelligence IQ of the individuals in a larger population, say the Indian population, you will find that the IQ is distributed normally. Now you are testing these parametric assumptions, because if your sample is also, the sample scores are also normally distributed, it means it is having one characteristic at least similar to the population, because IQ is distributed normally in the population and my sample is also having that distribution property. Is it clear? So why we are doing this? Because if we are meeting the assumptions, we are in a better position to say that the sample characteristics are close or similar to the population. This is one answer. You will have to go in deep, because I don't want to complicate these issues with technical jargons, because most of you are having fear or phobia of statistics. Is it clear or you want more? Your question
सर
was?
तो बेसिकली तो हम स्टैटिस्टिक्स का ही यूज कर रहे हैं ओवर अ डेफिनेट सैंपल, तो जब हम पॉपुलेशन का यूज कर ही नहीं रहे हैं किसी चीज को एनालाइज
पॉपुलेशन
करने के
को
लिए
हम स्टडी
डायरेक्टली।
नहीं कर सकते हैं ना। जैसे हम
हाँ
पूरे
सर।
पूरे पूरे इंडिया को नहीं, हम कह रहे हैं पूरे उत्तर प्रदेश को या पूरे बनारस को स्टडी करना हो, एंड से ऑल एज ग्रुप इज माय population. So those who are just born are also in the population. So whatever big team you will apply, people are डेली लोग जन्म ले रहे हैं और डेली मृत्यु हो रही है, वो स्टेबल है ही नहीं है. यू कैन नॉट स्टडी एंटायर पॉपुलेशन. सम फॉर एग्जांपल दोज हु आर डूइंग रिसर्च इन फिशरीज, they will be doing something on the fish sample or population, and they will be drawing inference about the population of fish found in a particular river, say in Ganges. What type of fishes are there, what are their behavior? But fish are moving always. Even if we will put a net, that will have a fixed amount. So by putting a net, you can have some fish stagnated in a particular region. You can study those fishes, and then again you will put off the net and you will infer about the population. So we study sample, because most often you go through my sampling lecture. I think many questions or queries will be answered there. So when we uh, study the sample, it is not only easier, but we can apply more resources, we can do the calculations more rigorously, so our measurement will be more accurate, our findings will be more accurate. But suppose you are studying entire population, there are many practical difficulties. For example, and the method called census, when we study the whole population, it is called census. Otherwise, we are doing sampling. To avoid this, we are studying sample, and meeting some assumptions is allowing us, is helping us to draw inference about the population, and it has been statistically documented. Suppose if you are so deeply interested, I would say that you can mathematically document that x bar is equal to mu. The sample mean is called the unbiased estimate of the population mean, and this can be mathematically documented. But for the general students, I would not like to discuss this. I would again repeat that we study sample, and based on sample findings, we infer about the population. And remember, the population parameters are unknown. Therefore, we are making inference. If the population, you are having this issue because you know the population parameter that the mean age of BHU student is this. I know, sir. But in real practice, we rarely know the population parameters. So, to know the population parameters, to infer about the population parameters, what we do, we study the sample, and using our prior statistical knowledge and procedure, we safely infer with some degree of confidence. It is not 100% accurate. It is always, inferential statistics is always probabilistic, and therefore I would ask how many of her you have heard about Bayesian statistics. If any one of you say yes and will tell something, I will really be happy. Have you heard the term Bayesian
Yes,
statistics?
sir. Yes,
Who
sir.
is saying yes, sir?
Sir Prashant Singh.
Huh. Yeah. Prashant, what is Bayesian statistics? Just tell a little. I will.
सर स्टैटिस्टिक्स में बेसिकली बायस थ्योरम से वो डिराइव हुआ है, जहाँ पे हम
Yeah.
कंडीशनल प्रोबेबिलिटीज की बात करते हैं और हम ये प्रेडिक्ट करते हैं कि अगर ये गिवन हो, मतलब प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ बी गिवन ए है, तो उसके बाद हम जो आगे के कैलकुलेशंस करते हैं वो ये मान के चलते हैं कि पर्टिकुलर इवेंट हो चुका है, एंड देन उसके बाद अगली इवेंट की हम प्रोबेबिलिटी को गेस कर निकालते हैं.
ठीक. I am really happy, Prashant, that you are having very
Thank you.
good idea. So Bayesian statistics, as he said, that it is based on the Bayes probability theorem, and we are using most statistics that you are learning or using is based on classical probability theory. Suppose I ask you that what is the chance, and this is very not good question. Just imagine I am asking, it is not going to happen. What is the chance that I will meet an accident when I am driving my car? Can you calculate the probability? The classical probability theory will not help here, but we do make prediction. We are having good prediction that what is the chance that a plane which is taking off from any airport is likely to crash or not. So in classical probability theory, we have a given sample space. The things are already there, and based on those, we do probabilistic inferences. But in Bayesian, we continue, we collect the information, we correct our probability. For example, if the first aircraft take off and it safely landed, then I will say that, say I have started collecting data. So I will start with a priori probability that there is 50% chance that plane will crash, but it landed safely. I will modify my probability that it is 100% safe that the plane will land. The second takeoff, third takeoff, say 100 takeoff, say 99 takeoff, there is no crash. I will, up to that experiment, I will say that the probability, I am putting it in simple terms, not in very technical terms, as Prasant was saying, conditional probability and other things. So I will say that it is almost unlikely that a plane will crash. But suppose the 100th takeoff and plane crashes, then I will modify my probability that there is 1 in 100 chance, that is 1% chance that a plane can crash. So I came to this that we are doing all these calculation and inferences based on classical probability theory and not using the Bayesian statistics. But the question was that how valid, how inference. So for that we will go to the Bayesian. If we want to be more accurate, very close to the real world, then it should be Bayesian statistics. Yes, RUC, you were having some question.
Sir,
You were
sir, I was asking that if we are doing some research study and sir, जब भी मतलब हम research study करते हैं, we assume that we will be using this t-test to find out the differences between the
हिंदी में ही
groups.
बोलो, कोई दिक्कत नहीं, दोनों हम उसको अंग्रेजी कर लेंगे. हाँ.
Yes, sir. So हम ऐसे assume करते हैं कि हम group differences find out करने के लिए t-test use करेंगे and after we collect the data तो हम देखते हैं कि normally what we see that कि assumptions meet हो रही है नहीं हो रही है, so how do we check for this जब हमने data collect कर लिया है कि वो parametric test है t-test तो assumptions meet हो रही है या नहीं हो रही है, कैसे check करेंगे?
This should be really, I'm really happy that you all are very interested in this statistics, but this will really be out of the scope. There are many methods. For example, if you will go in SPSS, you will find that there are different statistics for testing normalcy of the distribution. For example, you will learn in this chi-square test is one way for checking whether the data is distributed normally or not. And that application of chi-square test is called chi-square test for goodness of fit. But there are other statistics too. For example, you can graphically see, very simple. You can plot the data and you can see whether it is very close to the bell-shaped curve or not. There are other plots also like Q2, PP plots. These plots are used to infer graphically whether the distribution is normal or not. Similarly, for homogeneity of variance, Levine test, and many other tests there are there. So we can test all these assumptions, and those who are teaching these units should cover
Okay, sir.
some basic things. I am just creating a background for statistics, so many of the unanswered queries should be answered. So this is the beginning class purpose. And then I will again ask what you want to hear from me in the next class. I will come to that. Any other question or query?
Yes,
Assumptions
sir.
टेस्ट
No,
करने
sir.
के लिए
Thanks.
बेटा तरीके हैं, मतलब ये जान लो कि there are statistics. We use those statistics to test the assumption, but it is very unfortunate that most often we researchers fail to test the assumption and we do the computation. I will very honestly share on this platform that, and you can see that article is published. It is let me check. Let me check the title of the research papers that I published. It was published in Current Psychology, identifying the transdiagnostic and unique domains of emotion regulation difficulties in subclinical conditions of anxiety and co-occurring anxiety depression. What I wish to share, I said this. You can find it by doing Google this paper, and you will find there. I asked one of my students. This was a long due or pending data that was not published. So I asked one of my students that you do some calculations. This calculation you just prepare a draft. Let us get it published, and you will be one of the co-authors. So did all the analysis. All the analysis and results were good. I helped. I wrote up, and the paper was almost accepted. But one of the editor said that it is very good, but since the paper is very strong, we would like that you also report the statistical assumptions, whether they have been met or not. Then I asked my student, she said that, sir, I have not tested the assumption. I was little angry that you know all these things, why you have not tested the assumptions. Now, we tested the assumptions, and unfortunately, a few assumptions were not meeting. As I said in the beginning, I use the same logic and principle that it is not mandatory, and you will find very good references in those papers for those statistics that it is not mandatory, it is not compulsory. That it, in real data, it is very difficult to find or meet all the assumptions. So we tested and we clearly accepted that these assumptions were met in a strict sense, and in a strict sense, these assumptions were not met. However, using this method and this logic, the data are good to be analyzed using parametric statistics, and then we reported the power of the statistics. That and power is called 1 minus beta, and beta is type 2 error. There are two types of errors in inference: type 1 error and type 2 error. So all these are basic things. If I will discuss, it will be unending. So let us have any other question, or let me proceed.
सर आई हैव
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Prasad.
सर आपने अभी बताया था कि हम
Whether
अनबायस्ड
you are from psychology background, because this from last year we are having few students who are not from psychology background. First, introduce yourself. You are from psychology or not?
नहीं सर मैं इंजीनियरिंग बैकग्राउंड
आप किस ट्रेड में थे इंजीनियरिंग में?
सर इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड कम्युनिकेशन
इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स. ओके. यस प्रशांत.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन था, जब सर आप बता रहे थे कि बेस्ट अनबायस्ड एस्टिमेटर जब आपने मीन को बताया, तो सर मेरा क्वेश्चन इसमें था कि वो मीन आता है जब हम कंसीडर करते हैं कि वो एस्टिमेटर जो है हमारा मीन का, वो लीनियर कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ आवर ऑब्जर्वेशन होगा। तो सर और कॉम्बिनेशन से हम चेक करके नहीं, मतलब कोई और
कॉम्बिनेशन का नहीं है. लेट मी share the screen, but I am really enjoying because this is one of my area of interest. But remember that many people say that I am specialized in statistics, but statistics is a tool for psychologists. We must be very good in statistics and research methods, but these are the tools for psychologists, not the psychology itself. Let me share the screen and do something. One window. I am just opening one Excel sheet. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Everyone can see my Excel sheet. I am entering some values, and
Yes, sir.
okay, and to make it little more visible, I am making it bold. Changing the font size. This one is more clearly visible to you, or do you need to be increased a little more? एक दिख रहा है कि और बड़ा करें?
It's visible, sir. Sir, it's visible.
Okay. So let us assume that we are having a population of 3 scores or 3 persons, and the scores themselves are 1, 2, and 3. So how many, and Prashant will now help me because he is from engineering background, how many all possible combinations are there? One combination,
सर
and with replacement we will draw a lottery. We will put 3 chits in a hat. We will draw one and then put the chit again in that. So one possibility is, let us and another is that we can not replace. So one is and we have to draw a sample of 2. I failed to say that we are having the population of 3 and we have to draw a sample of 2. So one possibility is 1 and 2. Another is 1 and 3. Another is 2 and 3. This I have done. Now Prasant will help me. But because this is not the exhaustive list. another is 2 and 1, because I am replacing this. But let us try on this only, then we will proceed. Now you compute the mean. 1 plus 2 divided by 2 is 1.5. Am I correct? 1 plus 3 divided by 2 is 2. This is the sample mean that I am calculating. And 2 plus 3 divided by 2 is, any answer? Are you there?
2.5.
Let it make interactive, otherwise it appears to me that I am lecturing to the computer screen or Excel sheet. Let us do a simple calculation. Average of this is 2, and compute the average of this is 2. So I have done this. Sampling is called random sampling without replacement. I have not replaced. So 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 3. This is the exhaustive list, or some more sample will come? No. If you will do replacement, then it can be 3, 2, it can be 1, 1, it can be 2, 2. I will do that also. So you can see this is the population. There are population consist only 3 units, and the population mean is 2. And this is the mean of this is called sampling distribution. This is the distribution of the sample means. And when you will calculate the means of all possible sample, then it will always be, so this is x bar, and this x bar will always be equal to mu. So therefore it is called that sample mean is an unbiased estimate of mean. Now Prasant, put your question and query again if it has not been answered. So there is a linear combination, if you will say, because but linear combination is having some different meaning. So you can say that we have combined 1 plus 2, then this is a linear combination, obviously a linear combination. So just repeat the question, because I could not get what you really want to ask. But before that, I have shared some view. It is likely that it might have satisfied your query. If not, then please ask. Say yes or no, then I will proceed, Prasant. I am not able to hear you. Are you saying something? Just write in the chat box. I am not able to hear you. Should I proceed or wait for your query? So there are many things that I can cover, and many things are coming to my mind and then they are going away. So uh, I am stopping it here. So now I have lost my network. Am I reconnected again? Yeah. Any question? Let me proceed. I am stopping my presentation. और कोई पूछना है? So I lost my connection. Let me finish because it is now half past 3. Let me proceed. When I discuss the inferential statistics, let me come to the degrees of freedom. When we are in making inference about some parameter, then some restrictions are imposed for making those inferences using the sample data. So degrees of freedom is statistically defined as, and I would request you that if you are having pen and paper, you may write or you can type on your mobile or somewhere else that degrees of freedom, and this is the general definition. This will apply to regression, this will apply to structural equation modeling, confirmatory factor analysis, or anything else. That degrees of freedom is number of observations on which number of observations, first you write the short form, minus number of parameters estimated. I am repeating it. Degrees of freedom is equal to number of observations minus number of parameters estimated, and parameters means the population characteristics. Now the number of observations should be made little more clear. Now you can write, at least in your mind, that number of observations means number of observations on which the inferences are based. So in some statistics, there will be the number of the participants or the raw data number itself. But for some other inferential statistics, the observation may be something else. You know little, but I am just saying, if you do not understand, don't feel stressed or bothered. For example, when we are doing structural equation modeling, say confirmatory factor analysis or any path analysis, then in that we use different, the moments are the observation, and moment in statistics is called the deviation. Suppose x minus x bar is called the first moment, x minus x bar is square is called second moment. Have you ever thought or studied from somewhere why Carl Pearson's correlation is called product moment correlation? Can any one of you answer? Carl Pearson's small r, Carl Pearson's correlation coefficient is also called product moment correlation coefficient. Why? Because it is the product multiplication of two moments. One moment is x minus x bar and another moment is y minus y bar. So in structural equation modeling, number of moments are the observations on which inferences are based, and then we subtract the parameters. So using this general formula, let me explain by giving some sample. The example may be little awkward, but it will be helping you to grasp the basic logic. And please allow me to share this awkward example. Uh, but let me explain. Suppose you are making inference about the population mean based on sample mean. Then you are, and the sample is having, say, a small n observation. That n may be 100, that n may be 200 and even 2000. But you are estimating only one parameter based on those 100, 200 or n observation. So in that condition, the degrees of freedom will be n minus 1. But suppose when you are using t-test, because you know, you have learned it by heart, almost all of you know that what is the degree of freedom in t-test. So degrees of freedom in t-test, so in t-test you are calculating, you are estimating two parameters. Say if you are doing t-test for examining gender difference, male and female, then there will be one male population and there will be one male population parameter mu and one female population parameter mu. So mu male and mu female. You are estimating two parameters to obtain the difference between the two parameters. So in t-test, independent sample t-test, what is the degrees of freedom? So the number of observation is n1 and then n2, the other group, and minus 2. Or you can say n1 minus 1 plus n2 minus 1. This will be the degrees of freedom. But suppose you are doing paired sample t-test, so or correlated sample t-test, when we do, when we study the same sample twice. Suppose I studied you before this lecture, how much you are comfortable and how much you are interested in statistics and how much easy you find it, and then after the lecture. So the population is same, you are same, you were just tested twice, once before the lecture and once after the lecture, and therefore in paired sample or correlated sample t-test, degrees of freedom is n minus 1, or n1 is equal to n2 is equal to n, you may say, is degrees of freedom. And let me share the awkward example. Suppose I conducted a test of 10 marks and there were 5 students, and then I sent the result to the controller of examination. This is the final result, and that result which I shared, that the mean score of my group is this. Now suppose one student came, sir, I regularly attend your class and I am very sincere student and you have given me 0. Uh, and sir, I just made one error, that I forgot to put this symbol and that symbol and I forgot to write the final results. I was little bit uh, convinced by his or her uh, argument, and then said, okay, don't tell one, I have increased your marks. But I increased in such a way that the population mean is not altered. So I increased the student's mark from 0 to say 2, and then the highest scorer was having 10 out of 10. I subtracted 2 from there, and then I did that. Now suppose I altered all the 4 marks. There were 5 students probably, or 10 students. What I said, I forgot. Suppose there were 5 students, and on the request of all the 4, I altered their marks and adjusted in some way that the mean that I have shared with the controller, that is the population means. Controller means the it will not be changed. Controller will say, no, your mean is different, you cannot change. Please check your mark sheet again. So population mean is fixed. It will never change. I want to demonstrate that the population mean is fixed. It will never change. But I am using this awkward example of controller of examination. Now fifth student is coming. मैं हाथ खड़ा कर लूंगा. No, not at all. Because you are free to do manipulations in 4. 4 scores can vary, but the fifth score will be automatically determined because the population mean is given. So there is, when you are computing one mean, one observation is kept reserved. You cannot make any variation in that because it will be ultimately determined by the values of the remaining n minus 1 observation. So this is some basic concept of uh, degrees of freedom. So let me complete this lecture. I have given one video on what is multivariate statistics, but in 5 minutes I will cover that. Statistics is, again repeating, statistics is and today I have just tried to create a background in statistics for this particular syllabus, that is descriptive and inferential statistics. Inferential statistics may be parametric, non-parametric. I explained the differences. Now statistics may be classified as univariate, bivariate, and multivariate. Generally, we confuse. If I will ask that if you are doing four-way ANOVA, say 2 by 3 by 3 by 3 by 3 ANOVA. So there are four variables. So is it univariate, bivariate, multivariate? I will not ask you. I have asked it several times. Many of you will say, sir, it is multivariate. I will ask why. You will say, sir, it is multivariate because there are four variables, multiple variables are involved. And many statisticians even have defined that if number of, not in terms of number of IVs, they said no. In terms of number of IVs, you cannot say. So if you are doing 5-way ANOVA, 10-way ANOVA, it will remain univariate. Why? Those statisticians say because you are having one dependent variable. So those statisticians define multivariate as those statistics which are having more than one dependent variable. For example, ANOVA is univariate, but when you do MANOVA, you use two or more dependent variables simultaneously, and therefore it is called multivariate analysis of variance. Very good. They said MANCOVA, yes, very good. That is also using many independent variables. But then I will ask those statisticians that in multiple regression, there are multiple predictor variables, multiple independent variables, and there is only one DV. Suppose I wish to predict your health on the basis of your level of stress, level of anxiety, your lifestyle. There are three predictors, but one dependent variable. In regression, it is called criterion variable. But even then, you say that multiple regression is a multivariate statistics. It means your definition is not complete. So some other statisticians, and the detail is there in the YouTube. What is multivariate statistics? They say that it is both the number of IVs and DVs. But finally, what I have defined, and most of the statisticians agree, that multivariate statistics cannot be defined only in terms of IVs, DVs, or both. There is a distinction between variable and variate. And what Prashant was saying, now I will bring it here, that when you create a linear combination of variables to create a composite variable, suppose you are having three variables. Three variables, say x1, x2, and x3. And you created a big x variable by x1 plus x2 plus x3 is equal to x. And when you are using this x, a composite variable, which is a linear combination of several variables, then that is called variate. So we should not confuse. I have probably given title of the lecture something like this, that multivariate statistics is not multivariable statistics. Any statistics in which at one stage or the other, if we combine two or more variables linearly, and that linear combination may be weighted linear combination. So if I am doing x1 plus x2 plus x3, then weight is 1 equal for all. But I may use 0.5 x1 plus 0.5 x2 plus x3. So x1 and x2 are having weight 0.5 and x3 is having 1. So if such linear combinations are generated, then it is called multivariate statistics. So today I will stop here because you have given much time for me. I am really thankful from my core of heart. Rather, I am feeling grateful that you are uh, interested in this and you have given time. And for the first time, I have seen that almost the number of the students who joined initially is almost stable. So there must be some technical problem. Uh, so I am really thankful for your support and help, and I am trying my best. To my health is still not perfect because some cough and fever it is still there, but I am okay to lecture. So now I would request two things. First, before any query, the last thing will be the query that you have if you have any query, and the first thing that I will ask that please, and I would request all of you. I know that most of you may not respond, but all of you that, or you can do it here right now. Should I start lecturing on multiple regression, starting from beginning? What is correlation? How correlation regression go hand in hand, and then what is multiple regression? It will be a sort of repetition of the videos, but I am happy to do it. But I would like to do it in a different way. I would use Excel sheet for doing some computations showing you. And then many students have asked me how to do it using SPSS. So I will do it. But the focus will be because in your examination papers, if you are having access to your examination papers, you will find that some statistical output of multiple regression is given and it is being asked just tabulate the results and interpret it. It will appear that this is a very big question, but if you know, you can do it in 5 minutes. So I will focus on that. This is my proposal, not my order or my मेरा ये आदेश नहीं है. So what would you like? First answer this. Is it okay for almost all of you to begin with multiple regression?
Yes, sir.
No, so you let others say you have already shared your view, I see. Or because
Yes, sir.
in my
Yes,
video,
sir.
in
Yes,
my
sir.
video,
Yes, sir. Yeah, okay.
let me speak. In my videos, there are a few things in multiple regression. I would request that in the next class, and that will be on Monday, 12. Hmm, that is my schedule. But if you can give such time slots, say of 1.5 hours, then that will be more convenient because I can cover more. And I hope most of the teachers will be now completing their course, so though you will be having leisure time. But I will never like that you come at 6 o'clock, 7 p.m. No, because I know I have experience, and at that time I was feeling that, like me, you might be having a lot of difficulties. I don't know. My best wishes are with all of you that you remain healthy, happy. But time is difficult, so you might be facing difficulties. You are having very bad classes. So I would not request to go beyond that. But whatever is comfortable, you can, if you can discuss together. It should not be coming from one or two students. Then you can give me some additional classes also. I can try to find time and lecture on that. So I will, many of you are saying multiple regression. Uh, I will touch multiple regression, but remember, before that, I will ask questions from my videos. So whatever, there are two videos I have recommended. One I have done lecture for MPMIR course, and that in that lecture, I have described the basics of the correlation and bivariate regression along with their computations. And few videos are on multiple regression. This is my humble request that please go through them, please watch them. I will ask questions and queries by not by asking your names, but that to ensure that you have gone. And then whatever is discussed there, I will take up a few things that I think need to be explained further or in more detail because that has to be uploaded on YouTube. So I have tried to make it not longer than an hour or so. So I will take some points and I will also take some other points which is not being covered in any other video. For example, tabulating, doing calculations and interpreting the results. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Very good.
So,
Thank you. Yeah.
you about MPMIR. So, are the videos uploaded on YouTube or like I could not
Yeah,
figure
yeah.
it out?
There are. Let me see my own channel. There are several playlists. Okay, so there will be one playlist of basic statistics. I think I do not remember. Let me check my own channel. Uh, your channel playlists. Yeah. One is applied multiple regression analysis. There is only one video. Then there is one playlist, multivariate statistics, and there is basic and advanced statistics, one playlist. So whenever you go on my page, please uh, go to the playlist. When you will open basic and advanced statistics, I am telling you what videos are there. Chi-square test explained. I have tried to explain the concept of chi-square in very simple way. If you go, you will find it helpful. Then multivariate statistics is not multivariable. There is one full video. What is multivariate statistics? Then detecting univariate, multivariate outliers, how we can detect, that is there. It is related to your syllabus. And I have done this in both Hindi and English, detecting univariate, multivariate outliers. Then measures of central tendency will not be of much help. And then there is one video, correlation and regression. So when you will go to the correlation and regression using Excel sheet, I have shown practically and using my a few couple of pens I have demonstrated what is covariance, what is correlation, what is the meaning. Correlation is basically the correspondence between two variables or two score series. So everything is explained. So please go through that and I will also review my videos and I will come up with something that is different from that, though there will be some overlap. Uh, that overlap is needed because all may not be comfortable or all may not be having access to the videos or many other things may be there. So I will cover the basic things, but I would try to focus more on those aspects which have not been covered. Is it okay? I want to hear
Yes, sir.
okays, not one. Is it
Yes,
okay,
sir.
Ayushi?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Because
Yes, sir.
your main concern was multiple regression. Okay, so I am thanking you all and just answering one question that is not related to this syllabus, it is related to research methods. That difficulty was of one student. And first I will, and I know that many of you will be knowing this. What is internal and external validity of an experiment? Can any one of you answer a little bit? Then I will explain it.
So external validity is what the whole test is intending to measure, and internal validity is something what the items are the items measuring the total.
I am really thankful, Shivangi, that you tried to answer, but it is not close to the real answer. But others may also try. Ah,
So,
yeah.
like internal validity means that.
And there is a catchword. Let me alert whole students. There is a catchword that I am not asking internal validity of a test. I am asking, and the student that shared the example, and I think there is no harm to share the name if he or she wishes. So he or she will share the example or read the statement that created confusion, if it will be comfortable for him or her. So I am asking internal validity of a research, internal or external validity of a research and experiment, not test. Now you are free to answer. Yes. कोई भी
So,
आइडिया
like,
हो? हाँ हाँ.
I'm trying.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
for external validity, I think that it is that like, is the test valid for the population? Is
Okay,
it
okay. I got that.
can
This is a good question, and this is my fault. Means the fault of teacher that during the past semester we could not pass this information to you. Can that student? I don't know the student. Can that student share the example? That was good. Or if not, it is not compulsion. I am having that on my WhatsApp also, but I will have to search. Just there was a clip. Yeah. So can you read? Because I am not able to read it. Shivangi, can you
Okay,
read
sir,
it?
I'm reading. Yes, sir, yes. Let us take an example. Laboratory experiments are conducted in extremely controlled conditions and therefore can be repeated a number of times. Such research that involves laboratory experimentation can be reproduced with another similar results time and again. Research has high internal validity.
अब इसको हिंदी में बेटा जरा सा इसका अर्थ समझा दो कि केवल समरी एंड स्टॉप शेयरिंग स्क्रीन है. स्क्रीन शेयरिंग बंद करो पहले. हाँ. और हिंदी में बताओ क्या तुमने जो पढ़ा उसका अर्थ है जिससे पूरा ऑडियंस समझ सके.
सर इट्स सेइंग जो भी एक्सपेरिमेंटल रिसर्च कंडक्ट की वो बार बार जब वो रिसर्च बार बार कंडक्ट कर रहा है तो सेम रिजल्ट्स आ रहे हैं और इन्होंने बोला है कि
इसलिए
ये
वो इंटरनली वैलिड है. ठीक है.
यस सर यस सर
देखो अब मैं बता रहा हूँ एंड दिस इज यू विल फाइंड इट in research methods books only, not in statistics or psychometrics or psychological testing. When we do research, internal validity is internal validity is related with the accuracy of the findings and accuracy of the measurement in the given setting. So generally we conduct research or experiments in a lab setting. In the same setting, if it is giving same results, same findings, the findings are not varying, it means the devices or measurements used. Suppose I am doing a research for producing a glucometer that can help diabetic individuals to measure their diabetes. So I will test it again and again, and every time it is giving very close result to the lab results, then I will say, yes, this instrument is valid, and my experiment or research is also internally valid. Why? Because it is related to the validity of the, and here validity means in terms of validity is always, whether it is in test or in experiment or in research, validity always refers to the level of accuracy that we achieve, and reliability refers to the level of consistency or replicability that we achieve. So make it clear कितना हम exactly replicate दोहरा पाते हैं, किस हद तक results consistent हैं, ये consistency reliability होती है, और results कितने accurate हैं, ये वैलिडिटी होती है, चाहे वो एक्सपेरिमेंट में हो चाहे रिसर्च में हो। मैं अभी पहले हिंदी में बोलूंगा क्योंकि ये सारे को समझ में आना चाहिए। देन आई विल रिपीट दिस इन अ फ्यू सेंटेंसेस इन इंग्लिश फॉर दोज हु डू नॉट अंडरस्टैंड। अब यदि मान लो हमने कोई रिसर्च किया और बार बार रिसर्च किया कि यदि कोई एक पर्टिकुलर थेरेपी या पर्टिकुलर चीज जो है यदि की जाती है, ठीक है, तो वो बहुत इफेक्टिव होती है, बट जब उसे हम लेके, और यही साइकोलॉजी का बहुत फेल्योर होता है, जब उसे हम लेके रियल फील्ड में आते हैं, जैसे हमने टेस्ट किया खुद बहुत से लोगों पे कि आपको फोटोग्राफ्स दिखाए फेशियल इमोशंस के, हैप्पी, सैड, फियर, एंगर, और आपने बड़े अच्छे से उसको रिकॉग्नाइज कर लिया, तो हमने कहा कि यू आर वेरी गुड at recognizing emotions in others, and therefore you are very good in one component of emotional intelligence also। लेकिन जब उन आदमी को रियल फील्ड में टेस्ट करना शुरू किया तो रियल फेशियल इमोशंस आर माइक्रो मोमेंट्री। एक सेकंड में अभी मुस्कुराएंगे और जरा सा आंख मेरी तनी कि उसके बाद मुस्कुराहट गायब, तब तक गुस्सा, और इतने रैपिडली चेंज होते हैं। सो इन रियल इकोलॉजिकल सेटअप my findings may not generalize, they may not hold true or correct, they may not prove as accurate as it was in the lab. So all my participants were good in recognizing emotion in the lab using static facial photograph, but not the real faces। जब हम क्लास में बैठे हैं, बातचीत कर रहे हैं और एक को अपने बगल में खड़ा कर लिया, मैं कहा देखो मैं जान के कुछ बोलूंगा जिससे लोगों का इमोशंस चेंज हो, और तुम बताना कि कब उनका प्लेजेंट इमोशन हुआ। मैं देख रहा हूँ कि वो लैब में तो बहुत बढ़िया कर रहा है, वहां नहीं कर रहा है। सो माई रिसर्च इज हैविंग वेरी गुड इंटरनल वैलिडिटी बट वेरी पुअर एक्सटर्नल वैलिडिटी, एंड रिसर्च में एक्सटर्नल वैलिडिटी को हम इकोलॉजिकल वैलिडिटी भी कहते हैं। सो when a study can be more valid, more close to the real life settings, then that is called having external validity। बहुत सरल शब्दों में कह रहा हूँ। और जब किसी एक पर्टिकुलर सेटिंग में वो जो रिजल्ट्स हैं, उन रिजल्ट्स की एक्यूरेसी बहुत हाई होती है, तो दैट रिफ्लेक्ट्स द मेजरमेंट एंड एक्सपेरिमेंटल एक्यूरेसी, तो उसको हम इंटरनल वैलिडिटी कहते हैं। देयरफॉर द एग्जांपल शिवांगी दैट यू शेयर्ड, वो ये कह रहा है कि इफ द सेम रिजल्ट इज कमिंग एंड रिजल्ट इज वेरी क्लोज मैचिंग विथ ईच अदर, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि ये रिलायबिलिटी है, इसका मतलब ये है कि द इक्विपमेंट, द प्रोसीजर्स इन्वॉल्व्ड इन दैट रिसर्च आर accurate, and therefore that research is having good internal validity। So thank you one and all for your support, and I hope and again I am thanking personally as a person, not as a teacher, that you really helped me a lot। First you never gave me any pressure to have any class, even still you are not giving, and many of you were sending me personal messages that helped me a lot in difficult time। Some were saying sir you take orange, somewhere I will not share the name, they are knowing who are they, but almost all of you are saying, and those who are not saying they were little hesitant। वो हमारे तरह बहुत संकोच और शर्मीले होंगे, but their prayers were always with me। So I am thankful to you because it is your prayers that I am still here to see you all and to share some of my, देखो भाई कोई मैं encyclopedia हूँ नहीं, तो मेरे में भी limitations हो सकते हैं, but I always try my best to deliver what I can deliver। So if there is any weakness, then please do not hesitate to share me. You can share it me privately, but it will help me to become a good teacher. So it will, I will never be saying that why you are saying like this. कभी मुझे खराब नहीं लगता है. When I was in Gorakhpur University, this was my regular practice कि मैं कुछ चिट्स देता था और बच्चे जनरली जो है नेगेटिव नहीं लिखते थे. तो मैं कहता था कि 3 बेस्ट क्वालिटीज इन मी that you experienced as a teacher, not as a person, and the 3 poor qualities where you think that I should improve. Generally, it was never 3. लोग एक दो लिखते थे, but there were some common themes. For example, there was one in the beginning. I was in the beginning of my career in Gorakhpur. बड़ी खराब आदत थी, कुछ कभी अभी भी बड़ी हुई है कि मैं किसी का नाम लेके खड़ा कर देता था. ये कॉमन था कि सर पूरे क्लास में नाम लेके आप खड़ा कर देते हैं, बड़ा खराब लगता है. अदरवाइज यू आर ए गुड टीचर. सो दैट हेल्प मी अ लॉट. सो थैंक यू वन एंड ऑल. आपने 10-12 मिनट और समय दिया. फिर मिलते हैं. हमें आप व्हाट्सएप से मैसेज कीजिएगा कि कब और कैसे मिलें और किस बात पे बात करें. होप आपको इससे भी कुछ फायदा हुआ होगा. यदि नहीं हुआ है तो देन मैसेज में प्राइवेटली है, थोड़ी सी हमारी भी इंटीग्रिटी बची रहेगी. थैंक यू. एंड आई एम रिकॉर्डिंग ऑल दिस थिंग्स, सो आई वुड like to share this with you, but privately, not on YouTube public videos. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.